I have a few FAQs that I want to do. These are questions that are in response to my latest ebook, my self-study guide, Fluency at Your Fingertips. If you haven't checked it out, please go ahead and do so because it's super in-depth. It's all-encompassing in the sense that it covers most people's concerns and questions when it comes to not just learning English, but learning foreign languages in general. With that context, let's talk about some questions and feedback that I've received, okay? So question number 1 is, "Hey Ella, how are you doing?" I'm doing great. How are you? I bought your book and I genuinely love it, but I do have some questions about notes organization and notes reviews. My notes are piling up faster than I thought, and I feel I'm very close to the point where I will lose track of things and feel overwhelmed. Also, I'm using a number of resources and apps, and it's kind of hard to keep track of my study on all these different apps. Do you have some advice on how I can keep track of my study progress on different apps, how to keep notes organized, and how to review notes in a methodical way? First off, I just want to say, great question. It's a very nuanced question, a very niche question that I don't get asked enough. Okay, let's just call it that. I myself am a stickler for note-taking as well, be it for English or recently French and German. So the fact that you're prioritizing or pay attention to your notes is already a great start. You're already ahead of most everybody. Most learners, when they read something or when they look up words in a dictionary, they just go, yeah, I've seen enough. No notes taken, no notes needed. That's not how we should learn anything in life. And the point of taking notes, it's not even to memorize certain things, to understand things right away. It's only to give your brain an opportunity to slow everything down, to really process things in your own time. And so one way to do it is by taking notes. And even better, you can take notes as you read a simple sentence out loud. When you're writing down a simple sentence from the dictionary, you could try to make up your own. That way, you're already practicing output. So before I get into the nitty-gritty on how to take better notes, how to organize your notes, just know that this is a good problem to have. The fact that you're even worrying about this is already a good indication that your English is going to be better than most people. With that said, I do have a few principles and strategies that I think you'll find helpful. Number 1, note-taking is not an exact science. There's no wrong or right way to do it. There is simply what works for you and what doesn't work for you and what the amount of time you have allows you to do. For instance, when I started learning English, I didn't have a job, and so I was a lot more generous with my note-taking, whereas now I have to be more lenient on myself because when it comes to French and German, I'm not learning it as a full-time student anymore. So a lot of times I'm just dumping whatever that comes to mind onto a piece of paper, onto even my iPhone Notes app. So there's a lot less system to it. There's a lot less organization to it. I'm just working with what I have. But some notes is still better than no notes, right? At least as I'm piling up these notes, I do eventually know when and where to go back and take a look at my notes and kind of organize them in a certain way, provided that I have enough time. And even if I don't have enough time and don't have enough attention span to sift through all my notes, that's still okay. That's still, like I said, better than not taking any notes. So there you go. That's my principle number 1. And principle number 2, there's 2 modes of note taking. One is dump mode, where you're just going about your language material of the day. So for me, as I'm learning French and German, my language materials right now are mostly YouTube videos, YouTube vlogs, or dual subtitle videos where I'm reading the subtitles, I'm seeing the translation in one go. If a word jumps out to me, I write it down. I look it up in a dictionary, and then I write down the crucial information, how it's used, simple sentences, and whatnot. So it's based on the context. I'm going about this note-taking process by context in this chronological order. I tend not to get too off track. That being said, I will keep a post-it note to the side and write down any random word that would pop into my mind, or like I'm trying to look up this word, but then in this simple sentence, there's a different word that I feel like I should look up later. I would just keep everything on a different piece of paper or a different post-it so that later on when I have enough time, I can sit down and look up these new lists of words that I have accumulated. So that's dump mode. Most of the time when we have full-time jobs, that's all we can do. Unless language learning is your jam. As adults, it's hard to find, it's not even about time, it's about having that attention span, making sure you're fully present, you're fully mindful, you can commit to this one thing and one thing only over a long stretch of time. Sometimes it happens to me, but most of the time I'm caught up with something that I gotta do. So right now, I'm okay with just being in dump mode and just not really paying attention or even reviewing my notes. When I do eventually have enough time, I will transition into consolidation mode, which is to organize your notes and making sure you understood everything, reviewing your notes, think of any new words that you can look up or old words that you have forgotten or did not quite understand before. When it comes to English notes, I keep my notes on an actual notebook and on Obsidian. The specific apps that you use, or if to use apps at all, like if you want to keep it completely analog, acoustic, like do it on paper, that's less relevant. The important thing is you take notes at all. It's just, for some people, it's hard to carry a bunch of heavy paper notebooks the same way people would buy ebook readers versus paperback books. I don't travel a lot, so I don't mind taking notes on a piece of paper. I find it comforting. Like, I like holding on to things. I like anything tangible. When I journal, for instance, I still prefer writing on a piece of paper. I like the feel of a pen touching a piece of paper. But if I'm on the go, sometimes I journal on my phone, just like typing on my tiny little keyboard because I wanted to say something, I wanted to write something, and that's the benefit of technology. I say rather than trying to consolidate all the notes in one place all the time, embrace that you have the option to take notes here and there. And sure, in a month or in 2 months, you do need to kind of group them together, maybe print out your digital notes. Like every once in a while, I would print out all the notes on my Google Drive and then try to see, okay, these words I've already understood, so I don't have to review them. Or if something jumps out to me, I would try to write them down on my physical notes and then try to consolidate them in one place physically on my paper notebook. I don't do that all the time. I do it like once a month, once every few weeks. And that's all you need. Like I said, the important thing is that you take notes at all. Less important that like you organize it regularly and repeatedly, especially as a beginner. That's not necessary. With that said, let me show you my note-taking process. I only have a physical notebook, as you can see. Some people might like just writing on an iPad, that's fine too, but I prefer it this way, and I have made peace with that, even though sometimes it's inconvenient to keep track of all your notebooks. But I also have Obsidian, but that's more to group words together, group words by similar meanings, group words by similar spellings, group words by either the same roots, like etymology-wise, or the same, like these words are the same meaning, but they have different parts of speech. And I do this mainly for my writing and speaking, because just getting enough input, just reading enough, or even looking words up in a dictionary without trying to actively distinguish and use words and sentences is still not fast enough. I would say in the beginning stages, this consolidation is not necessary. I didn't start grouping words together until much later on, because for me, at least, it's not so much about learning more words, but rather getting a firmer grasp on the words I know or the words I kind of know. Now I don't want to just kind of know them. I want to know them with complete certainty, with nuance as well. And I don't do that often. I consolidate my notes in Obsidian every 2 weeks or so, if that. Again, I'm doing a bunch of things, so even learning English is not a guaranteed thing every single day at least. My advice to you is don't be too hard on yourself. Work with whatever you have, and then when you have more time, sit down, print everything out, or if you don't want to print everything out, type your physical notes into the digital thing, and then that way you can incorporate everything in one place.